Hey everybody, welcome back to Carbon's DIY Garage. Today's video is going to be more of a vlog than an actual maintenance video. You can probably already tell because I'm wearing a t-shirt that's not ready to be slimed up and messed up. And the reason for that is because it's been about a month where TDSR has been sitting out in its lonesome with a cover on out on the street after it leaked its brains out. So I just wanted to describe the story a little bit in a short little video of how the brains, the PCM, got trashed on TDSR. Part of it's my fault, part of it I'm going to blame previous owner, and how things are going to get a replacement. It's actually been about a month since the event happened, and I guess we'll talk about that real quick. The getting the repair done. So once I did discover that the PCM was what's failed, I went on eBay and I bought a service where you ship the PCM in, and then they'll repair it, replace the parts that are failed, and send your PCM back. And that was only around $100. So I went that route, sent it to them. They had it for about a week and a half, and then sadly emailed me back and said that the PCM was too far gone and they were not able to repair it. And one of the capacitors inside the PCM had actually leaked all over the CPU and destroyed the CPU, and they were not able to repair it. So they sent my PCM back to me in its sad state, and here is what it looks like. And this is the front of the PCM, and when I do a video of actually installing the new PCM that I ended up having to buy, I'll show installation and removal of the PCM, which is a really straightforward process, and then also my elation or sadness, depending on whether or not the Jeep starts. But anyway, this is the front face of the PCM as it sits up against the firewall in the Jeep. There are 4 Torx tip fasteners in the front, and 3, they're all T15 fasteners in the back that hold this thing together. And if you look right here, this is a sticker saying that this PCM had actually been remanufactured back in the early 2000s. So it had already died once before it died again under me. So that could be the reason that it wasn't repairable also. But let's see. May as well show you what's inside the PCM since I've got it out. I highly recommend against you trying to open this up on your own, because you could run into some pretty significant problems having to buy a new PCM. But anyway, there's a total of 7 fasteners to undo, and then these two, there's 2 plates, and you can see there's one of them right there, and they are sealed, which is a good thing, up against this metal plate that goes in the middle. And it looks like I just flopped it open, but it's not that easy. And it actually is one piece of aluminum that wraps around this metal holder, I guess. And if you open and close this a few times, you're gonna just break it. And that's exactly what happened on the seam when I went to open it to see what was wrong. So I think it's pretty difficult to get it unsealed from this plate. They obviously had unsealed it when they went to work on it for me. And then you open it up a couple of times and you could just break the whole thing and then end up having to buy a new one. Taking a closer look down at this part of the board, you can see these are the capacitors. There's 3 of them here on my board. There's actually should be a 4th one that goes right here, and that must be the one that leaked all over the place. And it looks nice and cleaned up now. You can still see a few traces that are burned and showing badness, but anyway, this is the problem area, and I guess it's not uncommon for these PCMs to have problems with these capacitors and having them leak, and that generates the PCM problems. Anyway, this is the inside of a PCM, and this is my experience saying that if you do have PCM problems, don't try fixing them yourself unless you really, really know what you're doing. Send it in to get repaired, or if you have to, get a replacement. So let's talk about what happened in the first place that resulted in me having to get the PCM repaired and then eventually replaced. So as you recall from prior videos, the TDSR has a big doorbell button on the driver's side of the dash, lower dash, for the horn. The horn button itself doesn't actually work. And I replaced the clock spring thinking it might be the clock spring that caused it to not work. That turned out to not be it. And I had a bright idea that, there's probably a fuse for the horn. Let's go look at that. So I went under the hood, I looked at the fuse, sure enough there's a fuse specifically for the horn, and it was missing. And bright guy that I am, I thought, well, clearly the fuse is missing, so let's go put in a new fuse. So I grabbed the right fuse, which is a 20 amp fuse, put it in, and as soon as I made contact in the fuse block, the horn started blowing, and it just started going nonstop. And so I removed the fuse to make it stop, and then I could have stopped there, but I didn't. It's like, well, let's see if it still happens. And so I put it in again, and it did the same thing. And the horn is tied in, obviously, through the PCM, through some of the same circuitry that utilizes those capacitors. And so I'm fairly certain that, that it was messing with that horn that caused the PCM to die. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's what happened the prior time with previous owner, and that's why there was no fuse, is because they had to get the PCM repaired, and because there's probably a short somewhere in the wiring at either the horn switch itself in the steering wheel or along the firewall. But anyway, that caused my problem, but I didn't realize it till the next morning when I went to start the Jeep and I came across this. Right, so if you noticed on the gauges, the battery voltage gauge never left zero and the gas gauge never left empty. And it would crank and it wouldn't start. And so clearly it was cranking very well. So the battery was fine even though the gauge said it was empty, and we had just filled it up with gas. So I knew there was gas in it. With the dash not working, I put all those parameters into Google, and it said, you know, there's a few things you can go check that it could possibly be, and one of those things could be the PCM itself being dead. So I went and looked at the crankshaft position sensor and actually put a voltmeter or a multimeter on the harness that goes to the crankshaft position sensor. It should be getting a 5-volt reading to feed the sensor, and it was getting 0.36 volts. So clearly there was a problem getting voltage to the sensor. After that, I looked at the A to D, the AD relay and the start relay under the hood. I moved some of the relays around to see if there was maybe a bad relay that was preventing it to start. All those checked out fine, so that wasn't the issue. Then I put my multimeter on the lines coming out of the PCM, so the PCM provides power, and then the harnesses leave the PCM to go to the various places in the Jeep. Put my my leads on a couple of different spots that should be 5 volts, and they were not 5 volts. So everything pointed to the PCM having a 5-volt supply problem. I found on the forum there's some places where you can kind of jumper around the PCM itself, but I didn't really want to get into that. And so it really came down to having to send the PCM out to get repaired, because a totally brand new from scratch PCM, you can't buy them from Mopar or anything like that, but you can. There are some companies out there that you can buy them for $700, $800, $900. I didn't want to do that. I can buy a remanufactured one that they program for your VIN, and that's around $300. And then for, like I said, off eBay for $100, you can send your own PCM in and have it sent back after they repair it. So I went for the repair it off eBay option, like I said, and after a week and a half they sent it back. Sorry, yours is too far gone. So I have been waiting now for just over 2 weeks to get a new remanufactured PCM to be shipped. It should be shipping out at the end of this week. I'm a little frustrated in how long this is taking, but you know, the Jeep's gonna sit until it can start, and so I have to get that PCM. It should be in a few days, I hope, and then in a week or so we should have it all back up and running. So I look forward to that. But it's been really rough not having TDSR up and running. We were just starting to make some real progress, and now it's just been sitting there under a cover, all because I'll blame myself a little bit, and then I put most of the blame on previous owner because it makes me feel better that brains of TDSR got leaked all over the place. So anyway, if you want to follow the saga of TDSR and how things go, subscribe to the channel and like this video to keep it up in the feed. And hopefully soon there'll be another video posted with getting a PCM, and hopefully it's all smiles. But until then, thanks for watching. And I don't know if this has really been helpful, but maybe it's at least been a little insightful in case you're having some type of PCM troubles as well. Until that next video where we recover the brains of TDSR, Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.